Welcome to So Many Receipts. I'm Shelley Seddon.
And I'm Fleur Michelle.
And we're two entertainment journos based in Sydney, Australia who love to analyse and talk about all things reality TV and pop culture.
In Deep Dive, we go all in on stuff we're dying to know about, plus chats you won't want to miss.
Welcome to our first deep dive into And Just Like That Season 3. So can we please call this podcast, I couldn't help but wonder, what the hell have they done to this show? So episode 2. I think Miles the Jungle Rat from Survivor has someone coming for his crown because we now have Carrie, the Rat Queen. So we see Carrie writing on her laptop in her beautiful private garden. So she's wearing high-heeled designer shoes, dressed to the nines. I'm sorry, but don't most writers wear Ugg boots and tracky dacks and have their hair in a top knot? Or maybe that's just me.
Hands up. No, and me. Hands up.
Yeah. So we see Carrie freak out after a pack of rats run through her garden.
I know. Well, look, it is Carrie Bradshaw. She doesn't do hoodies and tracksuits. Yeah. I liked that rat scene. Yeah. It reminded me of the olden days where they would throw in some slapstick scenes. Do you remember the episode where she went, like back in the original series, she went out on a date with a guy and a pigeon landed on his head. And it was a garden cafe.
Yes.
And then he knocked over the table and all of this kind of thing. And I thought that was fun. This show's just too serious now at times. Why are they making out like life is just one big long ho-hum sigh?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be so serious just because you're middle-aged. Bring back the pigeons, the chaos. And remember when she fell into the lake?
Yes, that was so much fun. So much fun. And
give us some laughs.
But I do have to say, if you have a garden in the middle of New York City, unfortunately, you're going to have rats. And I had a rat problem when I lived in the Hollywood Hills. They had to clear out all of the beautiful fuchsia bougainvillea growing all over
Bougainvillea. Yeah, I know you don't like saying that word.
It was growing all over the front of my house. It was not boganic. Rats are the worst. Disgusting.
We had them in our house and I couldn't remember where they were coming from. And then we got a rat guy in. They were all nesting in the ceiling. It was rat Airbnb.
Disgusting.
And the entire ceiling, he took a video, it was covered with their wee and their poo. I was vomiting when I saw that video.
Oh my God. Well, I was just thinking, why can't Carrie just let Shoo the cat wander around the garden as a rat deterrent? It's surrounded by brick walls, so she wouldn't escape. And with the rat poison, I swear, if they let anything happen to the cat, there will be hell to pay. I felt like they were foreshadowing.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised they even gave her a cat because I didn't think she was a very nurturing type.
So on our Receipt Roundup Friday podcast, I mentioned that I've started listening to the Writer's Room podcast. So that's the show's creator, Michael Patrick King. He does it each week. So a fun fact from that podcast, SJP adopted the real Shoo after season 2. And I wondered if it was still her actual cat in the show. It's not. The producers had to wait for another kitten from the same litter to be born, and they wanted it to be the same size and look like Shoo when they stopped filming season 2.
Yeah, and Sarah Jessica has got 3 kids with Matthew Broderick, and I often do see her papped wearing track suits and jumpers out and about. So that makes sense that the real person is at least a little bit more caring than the character.
Yeah, so apparently she renamed the cat. So Shoo is now Lotus, and Lotus has 2 siblings, so she has 3 cats. And I do want to back up for 1 second because at the beginning of this episode, we see Carrie catching up with Lisette. So that's the jewelry designer chick who was Carrie's neighbor. And she has made Carrie this kind of ugly necklace, I have to say, with 245 on it, which is her old house number. And I thought for sure this scene was to remind us that Carrie's single girl apartment still exists. And the writers confirmed this on the podcast.
But in that scene, you know how Lisette throws the phone or something over her shoulder? Why didn't she go and pick it up?
I know.
Who throws the phone into the air at a restaurant and then doesn't bother to go and pick it up?
I know.
And of course, it's picked up by a very handsome young man who then comes back and gives it to her. But it's like, when you go screaming after it.
I like cost of living crisis. And iPhones are expensive.
And lawsuit, it could have hit someone in the head. It is the US. But why do they want us to remind us that she's got an old apartment?
Well,
I didn't understand the thing.
This is what I think. So I think this gives her an out. She can go back to her safe space, the fun single girl apartment that Lisette is subletting if she needs to. So, you know, I'm just saying it's there. So I am happy that Miranda is a bit like the old Miranda. So she becomes obsessed with a reality show called Buy Bingo, where everyone hooks up with everyone. And I think we can all agree that this show should actually exist, right? So I actually think this might be the new season of Below Deck.
Oh, yes.
Last week we talked about how everyone boys, girls, girls. Everyone's making out. So remember when Miranda was obsessed with this show called Jules and Mimi? I love that.
Oh, yeah. And we kind of followed along with it as well for about 3 or 4 episodes, because they had it as a storyline. And I like how she's into TV. She was the only one that cared about watching TV, even though, ironically, because she was a lawyer, she was the one that was working the hardest and the longest and had the least amount of spare time.
But I love that she needs trashy reality TV to switch off. So when Miranda discussed hate watching by Bingo, do you think it was an acknowledgement that that's what a lot of people are doing watching this very show?
Oh, maybe. I mean, I didn't actually think of that. But my feeling is that all the writers on this show are probably all very proud of it. Yeah. And maybe are kind of oblivious to what's important to the old hardcore fans like us, because it's so different. I would imagine that the writers, aside from Michael Patrick King, are probably in their 30s and 40s.
Yeah, I think so.
Right? I mean, that means they were children when the original show was on 25 years ago. I miss the original writers. Like, remember Cindy Chupak?
My favorite, yeah.
Yeah, she's a famous writer who really made the show what it was. Yeah. She injected a lot of comedy into it. Now this show, it's modern, I guess, but it still feels really out of touch. Yeah. Whereas back in the day, it was the shit.
Absolutely.
It was the moment, the zeitgeist. It nailed how we were all feeling in that second.
Yeah, I totally agree. They're not nearly as good at tapping into what's going on this time around. So one of the common threads in this episode is around how awful it is to date with the apps and phones, etc. So after dumping Robbie, the director, Seema is back on the market, and her ancient boss says he knows what she needs. Yeah, right. And he connects her with a professional matchmaker.
Yeah, and they just stick Seema in a bunch of pastels and pearls.
Yes.
Basically, she tries to turn into a Charlotte, I
know.
guess.
I can't believe Seema actually went along with this. So obviously it didn't last very long, and thank God. It's like, why do people still think that women need to change who they are to get a man?
But if you're having no luck, maybe it is a point to take a good hard look at yourself.
Yeah.
If you're the common denominator in every sort of failed thing. I mean, the character is a little stern. I guess she's an okay substitute for Samantha. I don't mind Seema at all. It's just that there's no humour to her, really.
Yeah. I mean, I can see how men might find Seema intimidating like Samantha was. But on the pod, the writers said that they wanted Charlotte and LTW to be like the Thelma and Louise of the show. I actually think they're more like Lucy and Ethel. They're goofy, slapsticky. They try and track down a college prep coach to give their already privileged children the upper hand when it comes to getting into an Ivy League school.
Yeah, so is that meant to be the laughs slapstick part, the goofy twosome?
Yeah.
Doesn't quite work though sometimes with their scenes.
And so Charlotte's always over the top these days and wide-eyed as usual, which the school principal actually notes and calls Charlotte eyes.
Yeah, I'm okay for the most part with Charlotte being Charlotte. Yeah. Her character is the most like the old character, I feel, but they're still giving her those snooze fest storylines.
Yeah.
I heard that Kristen Davis actually wants Kyle MacLachlan, who played Trey, to come back, which I think would be epic. But writers, if you're listening to this, please don't bring him back as a love interest. Yeah. If you're thinking of bringing him back, not everyone from everyone's past needs to be a love interest. Agree. Hello, Aiden. I mean, sometimes people should just come back to remind you why you hated them in the first place.
Yeah, totally. And I do have to say...
He's a doctor, right? He could be suddenly treating her for something, or one of her children, or I don't know.
I'd love just a little check-in and see what he's up to.
Yeah.
And I do have to say that the principal grabbing his bulletproof vest and thinking that there was an active shooter threat, that wasn't funny. And there have been too many school shootings in the U.S. I can't believe that made it into the show. It's just really tone deaf.
Yeah, anything to do with school shootings.
Exactly.
Please stay away from that.
Yeah.
But why do they have to... Oh, this is what we keep talking about it. They try to make the show modern.
Yeah.
But so they put in all these modern references to things like technology or whatever, but it still turns out daggy.
Yeah.
And not relevant. You know, it just feels so out of touch.
Yeah, not a fan. But I was excited to read that there are 3 new men joining the cast as potential love interests. So the first one we met at the end of this episode, Liv Tyler's landscape architect, who referred to himself as Adam Gardens. So apparently he's going to help Carrie rebuild her garden. That is not a euphemism. And I don't think that scruffy men are hot, but there was a bit of flirty banter.
I mean, 2 more hot men. I mean, this is the realm of fantasy and fiction. I mean, middle-aged women anywhere are not meeting this many available, attractive single men in real life who just materialize out of nowhere.
Yeah. So I wasn't excited about the gardener, but I am excited about another new cast member. His name is Jonathan Cake. Bad name, but anyway, he's very cute, handsome, I should say. Plays a famous British author who moves downstairs from Carrie. So my question was, where is downstairs? Apparently, Carrie lives in a townhouse like Sonia Morgan. She drives the downstairs neighbor crazy with her stilettos clacking on the hardwood floors. So this guy, this new love interest, apparently shows up mid-season. I think there's like 10 episodes, so I cannot wait.
Yeah, but can I just say, no one's got a hot gardener landing on their doorstep. Everyone's neighbour in real life is just an old man who shuffles about and takes out the bins. So that's it.
Yeah, in Mossman, there's a guy named Scotty the Hottie, but he's actually not that hot. But anyway.
but he's like the best of a bad bunch.
Exactly. He's overrated anyway. And then our last new cast member, his name is Makad Brooks from Law & Order, and he will play a sexy award-winning editor who falls for LTW, who is happily married to Herbert. So I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, but why is the peripheral character getting that kind of a storyline and getting action? What a waste.
I know.
I'm just not interested in her.
I agree.
I'm sorry.
So, and just like that, that's all we have time for. Join us next week for our deep dive into episode 3.
And I promise we will say a few more positive things as this show goes along.